The Case Study on the Missing Booster Club Funds by Andrea Jones. Identifying the problem and what we know. Principal Stevens is a principal at a lower socioeconomic school. He relies on parents to help with extracurricular activities. There is a booster club that helps organize those volunteers, and they request 4 parents per athletic event to help out, 2 for collecting money at the gate, and then also for concessions. And the issue happened at the last basketball game of the year. There were actually 10 missing gate tickets, but they were accounted for by the parent who was collecting the money, so they were damaged or torn. No tickets were shown. There are safeguards in place stated by the principal. He tries to have reliable parents. He has careful accounting procedures, such things as he uses pre-numbered tickets at the door, inventory for concessions, and then having a security guard to help him at the end of the event to have another person while he's counting funds, and also for helping transport the funds safely. Mrs. Bowman is a parent, has 3 students. One has a daughter, I believe, said 7th grade. She was the ticket collector. An event occurred that Mr. Dumas and other parents had spoken with the principal and said, "Oh, you have good money, there's lots of money going on." I used a $50 bill, and then eventually that evening it was then later missing from the till when he was doing the accounting. And an event happened prior that their daughter, Mrs. Bowman had requested a meeting and was asking for funds to help her daughter with a cheerleading trip at the state at a national level. But the Principal Stevens, he declined for an individual need. What we need to know is what happened to the $50 bill that Mr. Dumas used to pay with. Were there two ticket windows that night, and were there 2 people collecting funds at separate locations, or were they together? Where are the 10 tickets that were damaged? Did she simply throw them away, or did she keep them as proof? And having damaged tickets, is that a usual occurrence, or missing tickets that usual? Is there actually missing funds? And I think the problem are the funds missing from the ticket sales from the basketball game is the ultimate question. My proposed plan of action, number 1, is I would go back and review the ticket sale deposit, making sure it's accurate, and also going back and past deposits. Mr. Stevens is the only person who does this, and so he should have in his mind if this is something that anything is a red flag from previous or just a one-time occurrence. Talk to Mrs. Bowman. If she is a community member that volunteers regularly, hopefully he has a relationship with her, and just simply ask, what were wrong with her tickets? What did you do with them? And I personally, at this point in time, I would not ask Mrs. Dumas I would not ask Mrs. Bowman about Mr. Dumas's $50 at this point. I would just talk with her and see what she says. Again, this is not something that continually happens, but if you feel comfortable, you could ask her. I'm not sure. I would have to know a little bit more information before I'd simply ask. And as a parent, I wouldn't want to feel like she was being accused just from the information from little information we have. Nobody actually saw anything. You're just making an assumption. Create more for other plan of action. As a principal, I'd make sure I have more detailed safeguards in place. I have few, thinking nothing would happen, but being specific. If there are damaged tickets, what do you do with them? Do you just say, oh, they're damaged, not turn them in? Here's an envelope, anything that's torn you can't use, place it in here so that you have proof of what it is. And also making sure there are 2 adults at each ticket location. You need to have 2 people. Going through a beginning of the year, they said they had a list of people, volunteer training, what does that look like? Going over protocol and procedures. And a budget for potentially a staff member. Again, another human, not perfect, but having a staff member, maybe you can have a staff member helping, because if you're only one person, as the principal doesn't have any other assistants, to help overlook and oversee the different events after school. How to resolve the issues. What is best? Number 1, keep in mind always what is best for students. In this case, in this school specifically, parent volunteers are necessary for student-centered activities. This is how the school works. This is something that they need. If students want to have the opportunity to do these things, we need those parent volunteers to help. Always working in pairs, I think, and making sure they're properly trained and that they are trusted. If there's someone who is a little on the skeptical side, maybe put them in a position where they're not having any money transactions. Funds generated in events need to be used with the activity fund. Within the activity fund, use the students to help generate them. Solution, have specific safeguards in place that all funds are accounted for after each event so that they're available for those students. You don't want money walking away, $50, but if it happens every event, that adds up. And there are events occurring all year to help enrich student learning, and you need adult supervision, potentially looking at staff members. I know at our current school, that is something that we do. We get supplemental pay to do those kind of things. You might have to supplement with parents, but looking at other options as well. Debriefing the problem. What am I thinking, feeling, and valuing? Okay, so first thinking, I'm hopeful. I don't feel like there's enough information in the case study to simply state that this person did it, I'm going to accuse them. I feel like it's something that at this point you have to be more mindful and watching and making sure that it doesn't happen or that $50 gets misplaced. I'm hopeful. I'm thinking it's a misunderstanding. If this is something that just happens, that hopefully it can be easily cleared up. Okay, maybe there's other denominations, but as a principal, I think they would have stated that, bigger denominations. What am I feeling? I'm feeling concerned in the sense of, number one, you had a parent who felt comfortable enough, meaning you've created a relationship with this parent and this family, to come to me for financial support. For another prior issue for their student to be able to go to this this national cheerleading event. That's a concern, and I would think that, gosh, I want to be able to help them and hopefully have that trust built within them already, between us already. And valuing as a community, this is a community that's willing to be there for their children. They're willing, even though they're struggling, they give their time so that students have those opportunities. I think as an administrator, it's my responsibility to have those safeguards in place to continue making these things aren't going to happen in the future. Any unresolved issues? I feel like it was kind of vague. I mean, I would like to know just more information just to kind of know, have these things happened before, or is this just a fluke? Is it a common occurrence? Is this something that, hey, there's always tickets that are lost or unusable? Something that, you know, our numbers not always matching up. But since he's the only person making the deposits, I'm hoping that would have been stated, so hopefully it's a one-time thing. Were there other volunteers there during the time? And then how can you prevent this in the future? What are the things that we're going to implement to make sure that our parent volunteers, our student funds are being used wisely and are making it to where they need to be? Oops, go to this one. Oh, sure did. Okay. Principal, how did the principal demonstrate effective and efficient management? Okay, number one, I think he even stated, he felt, gosh, I feel like I have these things in place. There are safeguards in place for when there's a money transaction. Number one, about how he's keeping track of the funds, and then also inventory within the concessions. He feels like he's on top of that. Number two, efficient management, having relationships, building relationships. There is a PTA, there is a booster club. He's well liked, he's supported, he's doing the right things. He's always keeping kids or students at his at number one, and so parents know that and they're willing to give their time to help out with that. And I like the fact that efficient management, especially financial management, I felt like the principal used sound judgment when considering to use the PTA funds for that one student when the parent came to him. He was respectful, he was to the point, but he basically said that those funds are really for the student body or a bigger group, not just one individual. And he gave an example of how, you know, we can't really use PTA funds to fund one student going someplace. And that was their policy. Okay. How does the principal promote social learning for every student? I think simply providing students the opportunity for extracurriculars. That is one, I think that's so important, whether it's sports, whether it's chess, whether it's anything that the kids have the ability or have the opportunity to do. I love this part, that social learning, the acknowledging a student on the announcement. I thought to the entire school, I thought that's a great thing. Students can then kind of piggyback off that, hopefully in a positive way, and think, oh my gosh, I want to hear my name on the announcements, or, you know, just to acknowledge the other student in the hall, hey, awesome job, high five, good, you know, just kind of building that camaraderie. Utilizing resources, those parent volunteers, I think that's a great way to promote the social learning, and utilizing funds for projects that benefit all or majority of the students. And then the last part is providing student academic learning. It is a low socioeconomic area. However, it is stated and it's proven through the different curriculars, like the activities and things, the community's involvement is strong. That says a lot about academic learning. If parents are involved in those things and willing to give their time, that means that overall that they're invested in their students' academic learning. The principal and the PTA, they promote academic programs. They even reflected on reading buddies. I thought that was something to highlight. And then again, the PTA is a partnership. They help with programs and events. And then he ultimately just keeps students first in all decisions. I think that is the biggest thing. Their mental, their social, and their academic well-being is a top priority. Thanks. I've enjoyed learning a lot about finances and education. I've learned that I don't know much, but hopefully I'm a lot farther along than when I started.